Hi everyone, I'm Allie with Potomac Beads. Join me in making this micro crystal bracelet. It's nice and simple with just a few supplies. Remember, if you need any of the materials, below me are links that you can shop with us online at PotomacBeads.com as well as PotomacBeads.eu. So the first thing that you have to do is actually glue in your crystals. What you're going to be using is these MicroSpacer 1 beads, and they're going to work with the SS12 crystals. I have some Ultra Control Super Loctite glue that I was able to pretty easily dab inside the center of it. I used my crystal picker up here, and I was able to pick up the crystal SS12s individually and place them into each of the settings. You can glue after the fact, or you can glue before you make the bracelet. So keep in mind, either way works. If you want to do one and then the other, that's up to you. I went ahead and glued in all of them. So again, I'm using the antique silver 1-hole MicroSpacer with the SS12 in the light peach color. From here, then I can set all those tools and everything aside and gather up my materials to get started with my bracelet. So after getting ready and gluing in our crystals, the first thing we want to do is add our clasp. We have about 4 feet of beading thread on 0.006 wire or thread on size 12 beading needles. And the first thing I've done is actually put on my clasp using a wire guard. Go through the wire guard with one of your needles and put on your clasp, having it go in either direction. Make sure that the threads after the wire guard are going to be equal on either side. I'm using green thread so you can see it, but normally with this color palette I would use white. From there, I want you to put on 2 15-0 seed beads, 2 on the right side, 2 on the left side of your needle. Grab one of your crystals in that 1.5 by 2 millimeter, and I'm using the light champagne color, and you want to drop it out next to those 2 15-0s. You want to take both the left and the right needle through that crystal in the same direction up through. After that, we have 3 15s that you're going to put on the right and 3 15s that you're going to put on the left. And I'm not boring you with making you watch these simple things. So 2 on the left, 2 on the right, and that's going to finish up your clasp and get us ready into the design to put in our stones as well as our nice bright MicroSpacers. So on each the right and the left side then, I have actually increased my count to 5 seed beads. So I'm going to have 5 on the left, and then I'm going to make sure to have 5 on the right. We're going to crisscross through our 6 millimeter bead. If you did want to use a 4 millimeter bead, that's when you would stay with that 3 count. I've decided to go with a 6 millimeter bead, and I'm going to go with my first needle through that bead from the right hand side to the left hand side. Next needle I'm going to pick up, I'm going to go from the left hand side over to the right hand side. So we're crisscrossing through that round bead. Let that drop down next to that sparkly crystal clasp there and give a nice tight pull, making sure that it looks almost like the seed beads are bezeling around that bead. From there, grab your thread and needle, and we're going to repeat that 5 count. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. After I pick up those 5 seed beads, I want you to pick up another one of the 1.5 by 2 millimeter rondelles. Just kind of put it on that right hand needle and let it hang out there. From there, picking up the other side of the needle, we're going to add 5 more seed beads to the opposite side. Again, I want that nice bezeled look. Once you have those 5 seed beads on and they're next to your 6 millimeter bead, you're going to pick up that same crystal bead going from the opposite direction. So right now the thread is going through from the right hand side to the left hand side. I'm going to take this needle from the left to the right hand side. So again, that thread is going to crisscross through the middle of that bead. When you pull that down then right on top of the bead, you have just a nice little decorated bead with that nice little crystal accent on it. From here, we're going to get ready to add our MicroSpacers. We're going to do a pattern of 1 15, then 1 crystal, 2 15s, and this is first with my right needle. Go ahead and grab one of your crystal spacers and sew through the right hand side because I'm holding the thread that's on the right. After that, I want you to add 2 more 15s, 1 more crystal, 1 more 15, and 1 more crystal. And let that hang out then right there on your bead mat. Poke your right needle in and grab your left needle. On the left hand side, we're basically going to repeat adding a crystal with a 15-0 before it, Then we're gonna add 2 more 15s after the crystal. Oops. I want you to sew through that Potomac's little micro bezel spacer there. And then when you come out on the other side of that, I want you to repeat like we did the left-hand side, where you're adding 2 15s. And if the 15s go in between the loop hole, that's fine. Don't worry about that. And then you're gonna add a crystal and another 15. This time, that second crystal that's on the right-hand side, we're gonna take our needle and thread the opposite direction, just like we've been doing. So the needle that's already through is going from the right to the left. The needle that I just put through is going from the left to the right. Give a nice tight pull, and that gets our little crystal spacer in there. Now we're going to basically just keep repeating, crossing right and left and adding in our beads. It's just a nice kind of little sweetheart crystal bracelet here, where we add again that 5 count on the right and the left. After that 5 count is added, you're gonna pick up your 6mm bead and sew from the right side to the left side. On the other side here, again, 5 beads get added. And once those 5 beads are added, we're gonna crisscross through that gemstone bead. So right now the thread was going from the right-hand side over towards the left, and this thread is gonna go from the left towards the right. When you give a tight little yank on either side, you're gonna see that perfectly sit right in between there, again giving that illusion that it is bezel set. Continuing on, we are going to do 5 more seed beads and then a crystal that we're gonna crisscross through. So we have our 5 seed beads on, and then just like we crisscrossed through the 6mm bead, we're also gonna crisscross through the crystal. While I have my right needle in my hand, I went ahead and put on my crystal. After my 5 seed beads, I'm gonna gather up 5 more seed beads, crisscross through that crystal, going from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. Give a nice tight pull and get that gemstone right in there. Continue on with this simple, sweet design until you have your desired length. So once you're done adding all of your crystals in, and I just have it flipped over so you can see a little bit better, you're coming out of your last gemstone. And what you want to do is pick up 5 seed beads on both the right side and the left side. So just like we did at the start, you're doing 5 on the right, 5 on the left. While I have the right needle in my hand, I'll also pick up one of my crystals and just poke that needle down. Left-hand side now, I'll add those 5 crystals. And after I have those 5 crystals on, I'm gonna go through this crystal, and we've been crisscrossing through. On the ends, we wanna make sure that the thread and needle are going through the same direction through that little tiny crystal. Give a nice tight pull, and that's gonna kind of push those seed beads down. From here, we're gonna mimic the other side. So you wanna make sure that you have your wire guard handy and you have the other side of your clasp. Whether or not you're using a magnetic clasp or a button, that's kind of up to you, but I'm gonna have that kind of ready to go. On the right-hand needle, I'm gonna add 2 more 15s, place on the wire guard, go up through the side of the wire guard, down through the other side of the wire guard, making sure the thread sits inside that little loop. And then I'm also going to sew through the loop of the clasp, letting that fall down into my wire guard or wire protector. And it's shiny, I know, so it's kind of hard to see. I'm going to mimic the same thing with the other side, this time reinforcing the clasp. So on the other side here, I'll pick up my needle, 2 15s go on, go up through the opposite side of the wire guard, through the clasp, because the clasp is already there, down through the other side of the wire guard. And then while I have that in my hand, I'm going down through the other side of the wire guard. I'll also go down through the opposite 2 15-0 seed beads. Give a nice tight pull on both sides, making sure again that that thread stays inside the wire guard. The thread and needle that are coming out right after the wire guard then, you want to put through the opposite two 15 seed beads. And that is going to finish out then that clasp section. You'll have one side of your needle coming out through the one side of 15s and the other needle coming out the other side. So the last thing to do is just add in some more of our 15-0s, which are going to kind of make the project look a little bit more full. The other thing it's going to do is allow us to jump and add crystals on the sides of our gemstones. So go ahead and pour out a couple more of your 15-0 seed beads. It's also going to allow us to reinforce the end when we get down to the bottom. I already did 2 passes on the left-hand side, so now I'll go up on the right. And what I want you to do is go through the crystal that sits right after that wire guard and the seed beads that you came through. Go down through the seed beads on the side. On the right-hand side, you're going to go through all 5, which we also did on the left. And when you come out between the sets of 5 seed beads on the edges here of the gemstone, you want to put your crystal in that place. You're going to sew through then constantly 1 bead right after that grouping of 5. Coming out there, then the number is going to be 5. You're going to sew and add 5 seed beads. After you have 5 seed beads on your thread and needle, you're going to pick up the crystal, there's 4 seed beads rather, that go on the sides of the spacers, and then also out through the crystal. So you're always going to be adding those 5 seed beads to kind of build up the sides there along the edges. Going through then the crystal that sits on the side, the 4 seed beads in the crystal, out the next crystal, and then repeat. So 5 seed beads go on. Then you're going to sew through that first bead, or that last bead rather, right before that opening or that interior space next to the gemstone. Add in one of your crystals there. Sew through the 1 bead after that grouping. And then you're going to get ready again to start your collection of 5. So you can see that really kind of builds it out a little bit, makes it look a little bit more complex, but it's really just counting. So again, I'm coming out through the seed bead after the crystal, because we added the seed bead and then we sewed through 1 crystal. Add on 5 seed beads. Sew through that side crystal, the 4 seed beads that sit kind of underneath the spacer bar there, and then out through the next crystal. That decorates and kind of just fills that in, making it give, again, that little bit more of a full appearance. So you're just going to go up and down both sides, the right and the left side, adding in the 5 seed beads and the crystal on either side of your gemstone bead. So I'm adding in the last of my crystals. I already did it on the right-hand side. I'm coming up the left-hand side and getting that nice kind of bezel set look of the gemstones right there along this kind of crisscross of the crystals. And what you're going to do is you have your thread coming out through at the top here through that top 5 bead. The one on the left here, I'm just going to let hang out. I'm through my first 11-0 seed bead. The thread and needle that are coming out the right-hand side, what I'm going to do is I am going to basically reinforce the edge. When I reinforce the edge, what we're going to do is we're going to go up through the crystal here. After the crystal, I want you to pick a side, doesn't matter, right or left, go through the 2 15-0s, and it's a tight fit there, so you need to kind of wiggle them off to the side. Go through that wire guard that we added originally, and we're going to go through the clasp, back down the other side of the wire guard, and back down through the other set of 15s. If you want to at the same time, you can also go through that crystal that is there. Now, if you're doing this and you're using white thread, your project is going to be a little bit brighter than mine, since I have the green thread for you to be able to see as I work. Once you're through there, you can come out right after the crystal if you want. Pull that thread tail a little bit shorter. Go down through the seed beads along the side here. And then I'm just going to tie a knot. I have both of my needles still on my project. I'm tying a square knot right over left and then left over right. I know I can kind of hide it in the project there. And then because the needles are still on, what I'm going to do is use this opportunity to kind of hide those needles a little bit. The longer needle and thread, I know that was coming up the side. I'm going to go back down through my gemstone bead and out the other side. As I come out the other side, then I'll keep those threads separated. Just grab my thread burner and burn those two edges down to complete the end of the project. Thanks so much for watching the Micro Crystal Bracelet. Remember, just like many of my other designs, there's so many different materials that you can use. So if you don't have the MicroSpacers and you're looking for something else, check out some other options on our website at PotomacBeads.com as well as PotomacBeads.eu. If you want links to the exact products used in this video, remember that we have links below me in the video near that subscribe and like button. If you want to hit that little bell and subscribe, you'll get regular updates when we do new videos, have new products to introduce, as well as have new episodes to make you a better beader. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and enjoy your own Micro Crystal Bracelet.